Hi, Donovan. I just wanted to respond to your presentation. I thought you did a great job. I think that there's a lot of reasons that American Indian students still have low academic achievement. I would like to think that a lot of that has to do with opportunity and where they may be situated. I found a report from the Indian Education Summit that says that 70% of Native students live in rural areas. So typically when that is the case, sometimes there may not be the educational resources, schools may not be close by, and then also with that we find that students in poverty and those of racial minorities often are concentrated within the lowest achieving school district. So I think that that's a couple of things. I think it could be based on their parents, whether their parents went to school or whether college has been something that has always been in the picture or been kind of introduced within the last, few years, or if it's ever been introduced within their home. So I think that has something to do with it. I think some of it has to do with state resources and funding. I think it has to do with teachers and their willingness to teach those that are different, to teach those that maybe aren't as receptive to, not to learning, but that higher education may be new when sending them to college. So, and I also think sometimes that higher education and getting a college degree, sometimes it's not foreign to American Indians, but I think that sometimes it's just not the next step for them, nor has it been for their parents or their grandparents or whatever. So I think sometimes that's an issue in itself, is just getting them to realize that there are other opportunities and how to get them, how to make sure that they're the most successful. In regards to boarding school, honestly, I don't know much about boarding schools until I listened to your presentation. I used to think of them like in those movies where you'd have the mean stepmom that's like, oh, we're shipping you off to boarding school. Like think of them as like troubled teens. So, I think with the boarding schools, with your presentation, and I found an interview from 2008 with some American Indians that went to some of those schools, and the thing about it was that they were just trying to assimilate them. They weren't trying to teach them, how do you still learn this content with your cultural background. So I think that could still be, it may not be an issue, but unless you have the resources at an institution where a student comes and they have this different cultural background, well, how do you get them to not change culturally who they are, but accepting that while also teaching them additional things. So I also in that interview, someone that went to boarding school even just 60 years ago. Your presentation was talking about 200 years ago, but this is 60 years ago, and that even in that time, that the teachers still saw their roles as civilizing students. So I think it's interesting. What boarding schools are now, or if they're more geared away towards only Native Americans, or if that's even appealing to them anymore after all that they went through. So I just think that it's interesting what their role was, and it's unfortunate that they were trying to change them and not really teach them. So great presentation, really enjoyed it, and looking forward to hearing your feedback.